Hey folks, as many of you know, for Mental Health Awareness Month, I've been doing a small, I guess you could call it series of videos talking about my experience with depression and just trying to, let people know what it's like when you are in that mindset. I did a video talking about the fact that you feel like a burden all the time. I did a video talking about the numbness of it and how you have a hard time feeling things. I did a video talking about how you end up being angry, and I've been waiting to do this video because it's probably the one that is like the hardest to talk about, because it's just bad. It's just bad. But as I was about to wrap up making videos for today, there's a storm coming in, and I thought about that storm, and you'll hear the thunder as we're going. But it just set the mood a little too well. So today, and pretty much for the final installment, at least for this month, we're going to talk about the aspect of depression that is hopelessness. This is kind of the end of depression. This is where, as I've said in the past, you start looking for load bearing parts of your house or wherever you are because you're seriously thinking about checking out. You start contemplating how you can exit this world. And if these topics are upsetting to you, then you need to swipe away now because we're going to be talking about it. As somebody who's been there, and I know a lot of people have tried or have thought about it, but when you get to a certain point where you're in cold sweat and trying to not think about like how your family is going to find you, right? Like so that you can get the job done. You've reached a whole new plateau at that point in time. You're at a different level entirely than most people ever get to, and that is the true hopelessness of it. Now, when I talk about it, the reason I wanted to talk about it is not to, you know, go on about my personal experience, at least as far as that goes, about trying to end it. I wanted to talk about like the way it feels, like the way that it kind of creeps in. And it creeps in basically, and the reason why I saved it for last is because it is a combination of all of these things. The anger that you feel towards yourself, the fact that at some point in time that anger becomes intellectual. And I didn't talk about that in the anger video, but that is how it works. A lot of times the anger is no longer a feeling because the numbness that I've talked about previously becomes stronger and stronger, and you literally can't even feel your own anger sometimes. You know it's there intellectually because like your body's responding to it, but you don't feel it. And so that's where you get to people that do, self-harm and things like that. I talked about that in the anger video. People will start to self-harm, like cutting themselves and things like that, because they just want to feel something. And the numbness is so strong, it's so overwhelming that you just can't feel anything. And with that, and all that feeling of always being in the way, being a burden, being something that people have to deal with, being the thing that people have to carry, being looking in the faces of the people you love, seeing their pain and not being able to connect with you, and not being able to, you just, there's nothing there anymore. You want it to be there. You would do anything to make it happen, but you just can't. All of these things are attributing factors to the hopelessness that you feel when you're in a deep depression. And there's a certain point that you get to, which I'll talk about in a few minutes if I have time. But as at the initial onset of this hopelessness, it is, I don't really know how to best describe it. I'll be very honest here, but I guess the best way I could put it is you start to recognize it when you have that anger and you have that numbness and you have that feeling of being a burden and a few other things, and you start to say, I'll never get out of this. There's no way out of this. You start to kind of reaffirm the very nature of the depression, right? You start to say to yourself the things that the depression has been telling you. You start to say, instead of waiting for the depression, you start to say that I can't do it. There's nothing I can do. I don't know how to get out of this, and there is no way out. There's no way out. And when you start to do that, that hopelessness becomes your reality completely. And here's the damnable misery of it is that you're the only one that can stop it. Like there's nothing that anybody else is really going to say. Even the greatest therapists and psychiatrists, they're going to give you, just surface bullshit that's not going to actually hit you in a lot of instances because their words can't penetrate the bubble that's around you. It just can't. It just doesn't, it doesn't have any effect. And it's it's so it's so painful to know that you are in pain, to know that you are suffering, and to not be able to feel it. To know, like psychologically, and to know intellectually, to know that it's there, to know that there is, you need help, and then to not be able to actually accept that help or feel that help or get that help in any way, even when people are trying, and even when people are actively like reaching out to you, and you've got professionals that are saying, this is a level of depression that, they start to medicate you and things like that, and obviously this is something that they do anyway, but it's so painful in such a way that, the only way I can describe it is, it goes beyond emotion. It's almost like a spiritual ache. And I'm not somebody, people know me. I'm not somebody that really talks about that kind of stuff that often, but that's really what it is. It's depression, when it reaches a certain level, becomes a spiritual ache. It becomes something deeper than emotion. It becomes deeper than intellect. It becomes something that it envelops everything. And that's where, most people break. That's where most people end. And this is the way I'm going to say this is going to sound horrible to some people, but I really don't mean it in the way that many will take it. This is where your spirit is the determining factor. And that's not to say that again, I'm going to say that, and then people are going to be like, well, that, somebody that I know had great spirit and they still left. But that's not what I mean by that. What I mean is, your spirit it's imagine this is, I mean, I'm going to say this and people are going to that know this feeling are going to immediately understand it. Imagine yourself in the middle of the ocean and you've been swimming for an hour and your legs are giving out, you're cramping, you can't keep your head above water, but somehow something is there, like you, just enough that as you're at that last moment of breathing, of taking a breath, and you're about to glub glub under the ocean, something pops you up, right? Like you get buoyancy for just a second and you're able to catch a brief breath, not enough to really feel like you're breathing, but enough just to keep you alive. That's the point. That's the point that people get to. And oftentimes, and it does come down to spirit and the way that people uh, feel inside, the hopelessness that they feel, that's enough to pull you under. That's enough to pull you under, because that one little breath, while it's enough to keep you alive biologically, is not enough to keep you alive spiritually and emotionally. And when those things go, your body's already gone at that point in time. And so when you're dealing with this kind of, like, this level of depression, again, there is no cure at this point in time. There's no quick way out of it. It's literally an everyday thing. It's having to remind yourself that you can breathe. Reminding yourself that you are going to fall short, but that you're not being a burden, that you're not judged for it. And the thing about it is, all it takes to break this, I say it as if it's easy. All it takes to break this is recognizing that numbness, knowing that it's part of it, knowing that over time this bubble gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and that it takes slow, repeated effort to get through it. And then once you feel something again, you'll find that's the thing you hold on to. And as long as nobody pulls it away, as long as nobody takes that thing you're holding on to away from you, you will find your way back out of it. But it has to come from a place of feeling, because from that feeling, you can escape the hopelessness. And I'm not lying to you. That's the only way that most people make it out. There has to be something at that one moment when they're about to take that last breath that they can hold on to. And all too often, there's nothing. I'm sorry if this upsets you, but please understand. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.